Hi, we are live from Hawaii, Maui, Hawaii, haiku to be exact. Where are you tuning in from? Did you sail this week? I sailed. It's been pretty good on Maui, at least the last uh, day or two. We've had some pretty solid conditions. I got some video, which I'm not sure if I'll be able to load it into the stream, but I can try to if you guys are curious, if you want to see it. I can try to load it up and see if it'll play. The problem is that the raw video is so big that it's difficult to play just as a preview. Normally, I've got to bring it into my video editing program and edit it into something. But I can give it a try if you guys are curious. So let me know if you want to see any of the footage from the last day or two on Maui. Hey Jeff, how's it going? Have you been sailing? What are the conditions like at the moment in Oregon? I know the gorge is a summer spot, uh, but are you getting on the coast? What is it like? York, Dom Dom, welcome everyone. Good to see you all. So, have you been sailing? What have the conditions been like? Maui has been good. At least yesterday was really good, which colors my perception of the rest um, of the week. Sounds like, hey, John, Tavi, Dom Dom says, one session yesterday after 1 month with no conditions was fun, strong winds, small waves, lots of jumps. Cool. Good to hear. Hey, Samuel, um, Belgium, sailing in Belgium. Cool. Dennis, were you getting out in that as well? Dennis is also part of the Belgian crew. Um, hey, Matt, forecast didn't deliver. Sorry to hear that. Sammy, Tomas, Bart, hello everyone. Yeah, well, we wait for people to show up and say hi. I'll try to load some video from my session yesterday. Again, this is the raw footage, and so it doesn't always play smoothly. So let's see if it'll play. If it doesn't play, I can go through it kind of frame by frame. Um, yeah, so see, it's not playing smoothly, and that's not just an internet connection issue. It's also just not playing smoothly for me on my computer. It's because the files are so big, and my computer struggles to play them. Hey, Ragnar. Um, yeah, hurricane weather, winter, Norway. That sounds like a session to skip. Um, yeah. Hey, Mark. Lots of wind south UK, and the water's now chilly. I really want to sail in the South UK. It's I've been a few times and just haven't ever had conditions. But the sailing looks really fun. So this is a wave from yesterday. This is my first wave, actually. This is my first wave of the session. I'm on a prototype sail. We're doing a lot of testing for 2023 on the wave sails. We've got a lot of different prototypes trying different things. And I'm on this older board, oldish board, because it's the biggest board that I have. And as some of you guys know who are in the loop, um, there's going to be a World Cup in Cabo Verde at the end of February. And the thing with Cabo Verde is it can be very light wind. As long as you have swell, you can run a competition there. So even with 5 knots of wind, but if there's good swell, you can run a contest. And so anyway, so I've got out this board. It's the biggest board I have. One of the problems I've had during COVID is getting new boards. It's not a huge problem because I really like the boards that I have. And I also like the Taboo production boards. So I've been getting new production boards from Taboo, which I use all over. And I really like the production boards. I use the Production to Curve 88. So like all the videos you see of me from Portugal or Tenerife or anywhere else, I'm on this production board. But for Maui and for Cabo Verde, which are really specialist waves, it helps to have a custom. And everyone that is in contention to win that event is going to be on a custom, whether it's me or Brasinho or Thomas Traversa or whoever else. They're going to be on a custom board that's more tuned to these kind of conditions, which the production boards are just simply not made for it. Anyway, so I've got this older board, which is 95 liters. It's the biggest board I have, that's made for these kind of conditions. And I really like it, actually. I pulled it out and been sailing it the last few days. And so normally I'd be on my smaller boards, which definitely the smaller boards are more comfortable. But the thing with competition is what what is really important is that you put the time in on the big gear, the gear that you're less comfortable with before the event. And that way, when the event comes, it doesn't matter if there's no wind and you have to go in your big gear. So, one of the mistakes that rookie sailors make, rookie competitors, is that they don't put that time in on their big gear and then they just really hope that they can go out on their small gear and because they're not comfortable. And then maybe they try and go out on the small gear instead of the big gear. And yeah, that obviously doesn't end well. Hey, Greg, sorry to hear about your shoulder. Are you seeing someone? So Greg injured his shoulder, and he was talking about that in the group before. So again, I'm just playing. This is some of the footage from yesterday. It doesn't really play smooth, so I've got to go through it frame by frame because of these massive files. But I'll try and put it show a bit in here. One or two more clips while we wait for people to show up. And meanwhile, if you're showing up new in the chat, say hi. Did you sail this week? What's going on? A little bit of admin update. So I want to start a newsletter. We talked about this last week. Hey, Thomas. We talked about this last week and maybe even the week before that. And so I've been doing some research about the best way to do that, and I'm still in the process of researching. Hey, Steen, but I think it will probably be through Substack. Ultimately, that seems like the best solution because that is geared towards information rather than marketing. And so, as a newsletter, I want it to be information, not marketing for something. I want to sort of distill what we're going over in the week or the month with the coaching. I'm not really trying to sell anything, so I don't need the marketing tools. And what I also don't want is the newsletters to be stuck in anyone's promotion inbox or anything like that. Hey, Brian. Yeah, sounds cold in Canada. All right, so I think this is the last wave I'll go through, and then we'll get into the coaching in the group. I've got a few topics I wanted to bring up as well that I was thinking about on the water. So again, this is my big board. So I have to really work to make this board go vertical because it's pretty long. It's got a lot of volume, but it does. One of the interesting things from a coaching perspective is like doing this bottom turn. I naturally want to go over here. But if I just think about going here and just look here, I can. And it's one of the amazing things about bottom turning that I tell people to this all the time. So often it doesn't feel like you can get to this section. It feels like you need to go over here. But if you just try to go to that section, if you just want it, you'll get there. Hey, Max. And anyway, so you can often go more vertical than you think you can, or do a tighter bottom turn than you think you can. And it starts just with that intention. Again, these clips don't play smooth because of these massive H.265 files that my computer struggles with. Little 360. I was happy to make this one. So what else before we get into the coaching? So I'm gonna put the update about the newsletter in the group. Something I was thinking about on the water yesterday is about limiting beliefs and beliefs that really affect your your windsurfing, your performance. And there's so many of them, and they can be really hard to identify. And I think the first layer of these limiting beliefs is what you think about yourself. So, oh, I don't what could it be? Oh, I don't ride the wave there because I don't like to be close to the rocks. Or I'm not a good swimmer, or I'm not whatever. Hey, Rich. And I think it's really important to analyze these limiting beliefs and tackle them. And if if you're not a good swimmer, that's something to work on, and to work on to the point where then you can change your belief, change your concept of yourself, and have more confidence in your swimming. And that doesn't come just from from just affirmations and saying that you're a good swimmer. It comes from putting in the work, going to the pool, going swimming in the ocean, putting in the work to become a good swimmer. Um, or there's a few that I see at Hokipa that are really common. And so Hokipa's got rocks, which I'm sure you guys have heard of. And so like these waves here break right in front of the rocks. Like here are the rocks. But it's pretty hard to go on the rocks. Um, as long as you're holding onto your gear, you're not going to go on the rocks. And the current is helping you every step of the way, helping to suck you back out to sea. So it's not really likely to go on the rocks. But a lot of people are really scared of going on the rocks, and they think, oh, I can't mess up because I'm going to go on the rocks. Hey, Max. Or, oh, I can't ride the wave there because I'm going to go on the rocks. And the rocks are ever present in their mind. And it actually makes the session more dangerous and more likely that they'll end up on the rocks because they're so fascinated by the rocks, and they're always looking at the rocks and thinking about the rocks, and they're not really performing as they otherwise could. Um, so that's an example of a limiting belief, and the best solution for something like that is probably going to be different person to person. It might be going. I'm not sure exactly what it could be. It might be purposefully going on the rocks without the gear just to see what they're like on a day where the waves are smaller, just to get familiar with it. Or maybe it's watching people go on the rocks, or watching a session and seeing how few people go on the rocks. The reality is with the Hokipa rocks that, I've been on them, I want to say 100 times. I don't know how many. And, everyone who sails Hokipa a lot, all of the pros have also gone on them really a lot of times. Um, so, and very, very few injuries. In fact, I don't really know any injuries on the rocks. Yeah, you might hurt some gear, break a mast. But it's not really likely to hurt your body. So there's not as much of a risk as people think. And anyway, the point is that these limiting beliefs really affect your level, and they really affect your performance and also your safety. Like with the example with the rocks, I think this fascination with the rocks actually makes the session less safe. It would be safer to have more confidence, more speed, and not worry, not preoccupy about the rocks as much. Um, some other smaller examples of the limiting beliefs that you might have that you might not even be aware of is thinking, okay, this is where I need to jibe, or this is where I need to tack, or this is where I need to set up on the wave. This is a big one I see with people, and a good exercise is just to force yourself to tack or force yourself to jibe. And so maybe you always tack in the same spot, the same distance from the beach, or the same distance out to sea. And I really noticed this at Hokiba. to catch waves, you have to be really aware of the waves. And that means not always tacking or jibing in the same place on the outside. Sometimes it means going way out to sea, feels like you're going to Japan. And sometimes it means, okay, here's a set coming. I have to turn around right now. Hey, Olivier. And the people who are not catching as many waves are always seeming to turn around in the same spot on the outside. And so they get a certain distance outside and then they turn around no matter what the ocean's doing. So rather than paying attention to the ocean, they have a zone where they feel like they need to turn around. And that's just really limiting. And I see the same thing on the inside as well. And that's especially bad when there's not much wind on the inside. So when the wind is maybe a little bit more offshore, and I see people come in like where they would how far in they would normally come when it's filled in, but then they're stuck in the area with no wind, and it's this, I don't know, it's this limiting belief about, okay, this is where I need to tack, this is where I need to jibe, and breaking those beliefs will be really beneficial for your sailing and for your performance. And so I think it's good to do the work to inspect what your limiting beliefs are. I think most of us have this with tacking and jibing. And so if you start there and you just force yourself to tack and jibe in different places on the outside, on the inside, and not get into that routine of always tacking and jibing in the same place, your sailing will be better for it. Bart is saying that he's got a limiting belief about the fins underneath the board and that they could hurt him. It never happens, but he's always aware of this. Yeah, that makes sense. So anyway, that's just a little thought to start us off. I think that if you start looking into what your beliefs are that are limiting you, it will help. Just that. Pretty simple. All right, let's get into the coaching. I'm going to load up the Facebook group right now. If you guys have more limiting beliefs, I want to hear them. Share them in the chat. What beliefs do you have that are holding you back, or that trigger fear or just limit you? This is work that's not that easy to do. So you might struggle to think of something, but I want you to think about this over the next few days, over the next week, and maybe you have something to type in the chat next week, Sunday, because one of the reasons that the limiting beliefs are so powerful is that we don't realize that we have them. So you've got to do a lot of work to look at this. Working with Caro, for example, she's a regular on the stream and has been a regular with the coaching. One of the things that we first started working on is just helping her realize that she's a lot better than she thinks she is. And so her limiting belief was that she had to work really hard, and that if she wasn't working hard, that she wasn't doing it right. And in fact, what we were working on is getting her just to trust her ability, and that she has the talent and ability. She has a lot of talent and a lot of ability, and so she can just trust that without working hard. And the idea that she had to work hard was actually getting in the way, because then she was pushing too much and forcing things too much, and not flowing with the waves as much, and not realizing that she was a lot better than she thinks she is, and has a lot more skill and talent than she thought she had. And so she doesn't need to push as hard or work as hard. She can just trust her ability. And that that's really helped her. And it's so cool to see as she sort of realizes how good she is, and that she can just trust her ability on the waves. And so it's such a funny process. It sounds so counterintuitive that what she's working on is doing less work, but I've seen this as well in other people. It's not unique to Caro. But it's been very cool to watch and be involved in the process of her getting out of this. But I think it's quite common to think that if you're not working hard, you're not doing it right. And in fact, in wave sailing and riding waves, I think it's the opposite. If you're working hard, you're doing something wrong. Uh, Riding waves shouldn't feel like hard work, which isn't to say that it's easy, but it's not hard work. When you're doing it right, everything is flowing. The gear is doing what it's designed to do. You're going fast. You're flying. The rails are working. You're letting the board and the wave and the wind do the work for you and putting yourself in the right position to make that happen. Which isn't to say that it's easy. It's not easy, but it's not hard work in the way that doing a CrossFit workout is, which I think a lot of people expect, or they think, okay, if I'm not doing that hard work, then it's not, then it's not right, which it just isn't the case. Just isn't the case. Jeff says, one of my limiting beliefs is not being able to get to 12 o'clock vertical. Yeah, this is a big one. And we mentioned this in the beginning. It really feels like you can't get vertical. I have this. We all have this. And it just is a matter of looking and trying. And you can go way more vertical than you think you can. And that is it. It's the secret is just looking and trying and just having the intention. And then you can go from here to here. It makes such a difference, just that intention. It's really all it is to go from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock or whatever it is, whichever way you're coming on the clock. Samuel says he's worried about the noise from the gear. Yeah, interesting. I'm aware of those noises. The gear is always making creaking noises, different sounds. But it rarely breaks. But that's an interesting one. That's an interesting one. Matt says that he's got the belief that he's going to smash into the mast when trying the forward loop, but hasn't yet. So Matt, you've done the forward loop course with me, and one of the keys of that course is really realizing that you're not somersaulting. So you're never throwing yourself into the mast. You're always back and twisting. So you're never heading into the mast with your face. Hey, Mark, welcome. Facebook user says, one of the limiting beliefs concerns the gear. Don't want to break the board or crash through my sails. It's too expensive. Yeah, the cost is definitely a real concern. By the way, if you're on Facebook, you've got to give StreamYard permission to see your profile, and then I can see who you are. We can all see who you are. Cool. All right. I'm going to jump into the footage review, going through the Facebook group, but you guys know how this works by now. You just keep asking away in the comments, asking questions, making comments. I want to hear more limiting beliefs. So if you can recognize more beliefs that limit you, I want to hear them in the chat. And again, it might be difficult to think of them, but it doesn't mean that they're not there. We all have them. Another one that's common is, I go windsurfing between whatever it is, 2 and 3, or I trust whatever, the Wind Guru forecast. When in fact, Wind Guru can be wrong, and you're having a better awareness of the forecast is really helpful, or having a more open window of different times that you can kind of get on the water. Obviously, you can be limited in terms of times by more than just beliefs. It can be about work or family or whatever else, and those are real limiters. But you don't want your beliefs to be what is limiting you, and that can definitely be the case. Okay, I hear people say, for example, okay, I'm a Kanaha sailor on Maui. I'm a an El Medano, I'm a harbor wall sailor. I'm not a cabezo sailor. And that's a limiting belief. I mean, cabezo is not that hard. Yes, there's that one rock there, but it's really not much harder than the harbor wall. In fact, I would say it's not harder, but the challenge is a mental one. And so then the difference for people who are comfortable sailing harbor wall versus cabezo is all in the beliefs, all in the limiting beliefs. So there's an example where working through those beliefs might help open up new places to sail. And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying you just recognize these beliefs and then suddenly it's changed, right? You've got to do some work there, because changing your belief, changing your story of life definitely makes a difference in your world, and that's not totally easy to do, and you need a process to do it. We've got a few more beliefs, and then I'm going to get into the Facebook group. Samuel says, another belief: always go upwind, otherwise you'll end up hiking on the beach again. Yep, that's a good one. Another one is this idea that the walk of shame is, hey Mario, that the walk of shame is something to be ashamed of. So what if you get washed in downwind or whatever and have to walk upwind? Who cares? No one is judging you. And so sometimes, that can really ruin a session as well, when you're so worried about avoiding a walk of shame. Even that word, let's stop calling it that, avoiding walking back up the beach or whatever it is, which, yeah, it can suck to walk, but there's no shame in it. So avoiding those, avoiding feeling shame about any of those situations is, I think, really, really important to your progress. Um, Rich is saying he's scared of hurting himself. Yeah, I get that too. York, York says he's scared of hitting the stones close to shore when bottom turning. Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's so funny, like with rocks and stones when you're riding waves. The trick, and this is way easier said than done, but the trick is just not to think about it. And if you just don't think about it, you just keep sailing, 99% of the time, you're just fine. And when you're not fine, it's amazing how small the consequences are. It's a nicked fin. It's not like you're really hurting yourself or the gear. But I definitely understand this one, and I think all wave sailors do. All right, let's get into the footage review, but you guys keep typing away in the comments. I love reading them, but it's about time we get into the footage review. So everyone who's showed up late, we just spent the last 20 or so minutes talking about limiting beliefs and how those affect your windsurfing. And now we're going to move on to the footage review and Facebook review. So, all right. We've got a question from John, who's leaving for Tenerife in about 3 weeks, and he's wondering what gear to bring. And so he's looking to bring his 82 liter or 78 liter, and he's looking to bring 3 sails. Last time he only sailed below 4.5, but he knows that this can change. A local said there wouldn't be any waves if it's above a 5.0. 2 tips on how to pack all the gear in a double board bag. So let's see. So first, let's talk about what gear for Tenerife. So one of the problems with Tenerife, one of the problems with Cabezo, is that it really can be anything. It can be light. It can be windy, and you can get waves also when it's light. I've done a lot of contest heats there on a 5.5. So it's hard to say. I think with Tenerife, it's one of the places where you really do want to have a wide range of gear. It can also be super windy there. So whether you go 4.0 to 5.0 or 3.4 to 4.5, I think it's a little bit of a gamble. And in fact, it's one where I don't know how long you're going for, but I'd guess, John, that you're going for about a week. So if you're in the chat, let us know. And I would say if you're going for a week, I would look at the forecast the day before you fly and base your decision on the forecast. So the forecast will be pretty right for the next 3 days. And then the last part of the week can be anything. But it will give you an idea. And if the forecast on Wind Guru is showing up red northeast, bring the smaller sails. And if it's not, if it's showing green, again, you still want northeast wind. But if it's showing green or lighter, then bring the bigger sizes. I think it's really important to make these decisions based on the forecast when you can. So you guys are saying 3 weeks, but I understand that is he going to be there in 3 weeks, or is he leaving in 3 weeks? Is the question that I have. If he's going for a longer period, then like going for 3 weeks, then it would kind of be nice to have more gear. You guys are saying, so Max is saying you can always rent bigger kit in El Medano, and that is also very true. Tomas is saying in the winter there'll be no waves in Cabezo without wind, but you can get a great bibo session in Las Americas with a good swell and side off wind. Yeah, Las Americas works with southwest wind when there's nothing in Cabezo usually. That is a great point. Okay, so you guys are all telling me that he's staying for 3 weeks. John is staying for 3 weeks. Thomas, I have no idea what you're talking about. You want to fill us in? You're confusing me about surfers getting caught by the police. Tell us the whole story. Sounds exciting. Anyway, okay, so if John is going for a longer period, then what I said about the forecast is less relevant because he's going to be there for 3 weeks. This is difficult. If I were traveling there myself, I would probably take 4 sails, so I would be covered in a wider variety of conditions. I realize that isn't so easy to do because then you probably have to take another bag, et cetera, et cetera. And I would maybe look into taking that bag and seeing what the cost of that bag is. And you have, when you're looking at the cost of taking an extra bag, the math you have to do is, okay, what does that bag cost on the outbound flight? What does that bag cost on the return flight? What is the stress that bag causes in terms of packing, just packing in general? Do I have enough bags? Does it work? And what is the stress that it causes with the rental car or transportation? Is it going to make it more difficult? So anyway, those are all factors to look at, but sometimes it's worth taking that extra bag, and it's worth that extra 50 euros or whatever it is, or 80 euros to take that bag and a little bit of extra hassle just so that you can get on the water in those other sessions. So it's really difficult to say, John, which is the better quiver here. I think you can go each way and be fine or be wrong. And so the answer that I would give is to try to look at taking 3-4 to 5-0, or look at the rental option. So I know TWS has a lot of good modern gear, so there are options there. But then also you're going to be paying for the rental, and yeah, so just factor everything in. In terms of flying, it depends a lot on the airline that you're flying, and you want to read the rules of each airline, and also check with other people who have flown on that airline before with how they like to handle gear. So for example, some airlines want you to have more bags with a smaller weight. So for example, if you're flying with TAP Portugal, often you can get your gear counted as just a normal bag, but it's got to be less than 23 kilos. So you can it's better to have more bags that are less than 23 kilos. With Condor, in my experience, they'd rather you have one big heavy bag, that's maybe 32 or over 32 kilos. And so it really depends. It really depends on the airline. I try to fly with Star Alliance because I have status there, and I know kind of how those systems work. But if you're flying with other airlines, it's just good to ask people who have experience flying with gear. So some of the budget, what are they called? Like, um, what are those airlines called? Like EasyJet and TUI and uh, anyway, whatever those airlines are. There's sort of the airlines where they have low fares and you have to pay for everything extra. With those airlines, it's often the best strategy to book the windsurfing equipment ahead of time, and so you just add that online. And sometimes I'll even add an extra bag. So I'll add a windsurf bag, and then if I have a lot of other bags, I'll add maybe like a kite bag if I can add the two, because normally you can only add one windsurf bag in their system. So you add a windsurf bag and a kite bag, and with those airlines, it's really important to do that ahead of time. And as long as you do and you do it online, the check-in experience is pretty easy. With other airlines, you can do it at the airport. But anyway, now about packing, and we've got some questions about packing. So Olivia is saying how do you properly protect your board in the plane? Any light solutions that work to avoid any excess weight? Bart is saying that he uses cardboard to protect the board extra. It's not heavy and it protects great. That's a good solution, Bart. Normally what I do one of two things. So I have some light foam, kind of foam within a reflective silver cover, like, I don't know, super thin, that came with the board bag. I think most board bags come with these that you can sort of layer between the boards. So I'm often just putting that on top of my board and then putting whatever else on top, whether it's another board or more gear. If I have the weight, so if I'm not traveling with a lot of gear in that board bag, I'll put the board in a single board bag. So I have single board bags, and what I like about that solution, putting the board in the single board bag, then in the double board bag, is one, the board is really protected. And two, when I get to wherever I'm going, I have a board bag for the board. So if I'm putting the board on the top of the car or just around, the board is not getting scratched for when I'm at my destination, moving the board around. So I like having that single board bag to travel with. And if I'm traveling with two boards, often what I'll do is I'll put one of them in a single board bag and the other one normally below, so I put the one below that's naked, and then the one in the single board bag on top, and then maybe I can fit some masts or something on top. Generally, I'm not traveling with one board bag. And just from looking at this picture, John, it looks like you've got wheels on this board bag, which means that the board bag is going to be heavy. It's going to be hard to fit all this stuff in one board bag and hit your weight requirements. It's going to be really easy to go overweight with this board bag because this board bag looks kind of heavy. So I would really look into taking another bag. So I always do, what I like to do is I have my board bag and I put one or two boards in there. I put my mass in there and I put my gear bag. And so I've got a little gear bag with my fins, my extensions, my bases, tools, everything else I need. I put that with the mass and the board in the board bag. And then I've got another bag that's just a really soft bag. It weighs nothing. And I have a few of these bags. Some of them are made in the Ezzy factory, which if people are interested, I could probably get some made and shipped to Europe. They're just super simple, thin bags for carrying sails. Or Dakine makes a good one. I really like the Dakine one. It's a little bit long for wave gear. It's their windsurfing. It's their windsurfing. Let me see if I can find it. Dakine windsurf. Let's see if we can find the bag. All right. Windsurf bags. So they don't even have it on their website. Oh, come on, Decline. It's like a duffel. Here, let's just Google it. Decline Windsurf duffel. So it's this bag. This is a good bag. It folds up tiny. It doesn't weigh very much. You can fit masts in here, sails in here, booms in here, and it folds up tiny. So you can fit this entire bag into this pocket. So the whole thing ends up being just this little compact unit when you're not using the bag, which I don't know why they don't have more pictures. I hope they still make these bags. Yeah, so it folds up sort of like this size. Anyway, or I've got these Ezzy ones, which also people are interested in. I could probably get some sent to Europe or wherever you are, actually. But they're really simple. You know, it's a lightweight solution for carrying. I'm using them to carry sails and booms. So anyway, so I've got my sails and booms in one bag, and normally I'm taking 4 to 6 sails, 4 to 5 probably most likely on a trip. And I like to take 2 booms because I like to take 2 booms, 2 extensions, because you know if something else breaks, there's often a solution. The one time in the last few years that I did a trip with 1 boom, and because you know I never break a boom, but just to have that peace of mind, the one time I did a trip with 1 boom, I was in Portugal in October. I broke the boom, and then I missed a really good day because I didn't have a boom. And yeah, I'm sure maybe I could have organized one and figured it out. But anyway, I like to travel with 2 booms. The long-winded point I'm trying to make is that, John, I think it's going to be really difficult to get all your stuff in this bag. You know, if you are going to put all your stuff in a triple board bag, you want to have one that doesn't have wheels because wheels add a lot of weight. The other thing you want to do is you want to take off the foot straps, take off the fins, your extensions, your bases, all of that little stuff, and put it in another suitcase. So that's going in your clothing bag or one of the bags that you're checking in. All right, I'm going to go check out the comments just quickly. Olivia says he posted on Facebook a weight calculation for the complete quiver. Olivia, where do we find that? Is that in our Facebook group? Is that on the thread? And then Tomaz is saying that if you break something, it's relatively cheap to buy new gear in the Canaries. That's also a good point. I know Ragnar and Dennis have experience with TWS and the insurance offered there. So I think when we were in Tenerife for the masterclass, Ragnar had some experiences without the insurance and had to pay for some damages to the gear. Dennis went through the insurance process, which was, how I understood it, a bit of a hassle because it's a third-party insurance and whatever else. But anyway, that's just something to be aware of when you are renting gear. Cool, Olivia. Thanks for posting that. Maybe I need to refresh my page. Oh, we see it. Here it is. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would add is that the board bag with wheels might be heavier than that. Where are you getting these numbers? Are these from where are these numbers? Because the Ezzy sails are less than this. Like these sails are all going to be under 3 kilos. Because yeah, these are all under 3 kilos. One thing to save weight with the sails is to travel without the sail bags, because the sail bags do add weight. They protect the sails, which is nice. But if you take out the sails, then take the sails out of the bags, you save actually quite a bit of weight. Um, all right, moving on. Oh, cool. Olivier weighed his own material. That's a good idea. Yeah, Ragnar makes another good point. Don't forget the vent screw when you fly. So you want to remove the vent plug when you fly. Otherwise, the pressure is really hard on the board, and the board can blow up or at least delam. So you want to take out the vent plug and then remember to put it back in, because if you don't put it back in, you'll also destroy the board, which is not good. All right, let's move on. But if you guys have good comments, keep putting them in the chat. But I'm going to move on to the next point, which is top tips for handling high wind when all gear has been optimized. Saturday was 40 to 50 knots. I tried max downhaul, medium outhaul in the beginning to avoid tension in the sail too much and making it gutless, but still able to handle the gusts. Then max downhaul and outhaul, the boom lower below the 2.5 mark on the sail, the mast foot forward, and I had to give up. Any other tips? So I would raise the boom in those conditions. I like having a higher boom when it's really windy. I feel like that gives me more control over the gear. So I would raise the boom. I would downhaul. If it's super strong, I would downhaul a little bit past maximum and probably go to also max outhaul. Is probably what I would do. So it sounds like you did go max downhaul and outhaul. I think moving the mast foot forward also helps. But the only thing I wouldn't do here is lower the boom. I would actually probably raise the boom. And yeah, otherwise, going with maybe a smaller board. I think, John, your boards are pretty big volume wise compared to your body weight. And that is especially difficult in these conditions that you're describing. So for example, in these conditions, I'm on a board that is less than my body weight. If I compare the volume in liters to my kilos, the board is less than my body weight. And I think if I remember when you were talking about your gear, John, that your board is 5 to 10 liters more than your body weight. And so it's going to be very buoyant in these conditions, and that's going to be difficult. Yeah, and so Niels is also saying that he likes to put the boom higher. And so I definitely think you want to have a higher boom when you're overpowered like that. Now, you guys in the chat are talking about rolling up the sails. Quite a few people are saying to roll up the sails together when you travel. And that's super interesting. So I guess, Greg and Mario, the point is that if, for example, if you rolled two sails together, you could fit it in one just normal sail bag. Like, we're not talking about a quiver bag. We're talking about just the bag the sails come in. And then you could check in just that one bag, possibly. That's really interesting. I've never tried that or thought of that. Yeah, interesting. That's super interesting. I've always heard about rolling up sails together, but I've never done that myself. For me, the issues are never space related, or rarely space related. I shouldn't say never, but it's rarely space related, and it's more weight related, which then doesn't matter how you roll the sails, the weight is going to be the same. All right, Dennis with an update on his forward loops. Let's make this video a little bit bigger. Nice landing. All right, so Dennis, what do you say here? Quick status on my forward loop journey. I had a good session on Saturday. It seems that my bad technique is turning into an efficient bad technique instead of becoming a good technique. Yet I landed a few well enough and had fun. I assume that now that I'm fairly confident, my technique will improve in the upcoming months. Not much to coach. I just wanted to share. My mistakes have already been pointed out, and I know that I have to do to improve. Front arm extended, board bears off, look back. Cool. These look good. One thing you could try that we haven't talked about here is sheeting out a little bit as you're going off the ramp before you sheet in. And that might help you reposition the gear, Dennis, a little bit easier. But these also look solid, and I think that your self-coaching is bang on. Yeah, it'd be interesting. Someone says it'd be interesting to see footage from another angle. I agree with that. All right, moving on. We've got some video from Dom. I added 2 attempts to that video. Attempt number 3. It's not that often that you get the same move from 2 different angles. It seems quite clean, and the landing felt soft, but my backhand could be further back, and I hardly looked back. Did it feel soft in the landing because it is horizontal, or just luck with this height? Attempt 4, same story. Backhand should be further back, head not looking back. As close as I can get to a planing front loop. Closer, but still far. All right, let's watch these. These are looking good, Dum. Little bit of delay. Yeah, these are looking good. And this is nice and horizontal. Yeah. Where's the other angle from this one? Yeah, looks good. This also looks good. But yeah, looking back over that shoulder will just really view. Hey, Nicolas. Looking back hard over that shoulder and really thinking about twisting your body rather than sheeting in. That's something I'm changing in how I talk about forward loops. Instead of talking about it as sheeting in, think about it as a big twist with the whole body, the whole upper body, to sort of twist the sail rather than just sheet it in. But just looking back, Dom, over that shoulder, I think we'll get you there. I think we'll get you where you want to be, because you've got so many elements correct in this loop, and you're doing really nice forwards. And I know what you want. You want to land more on top of your board. You want to land with more speed out of it. But that head will really help. It helps with your body position, helps pull on the sail, also helps you know where you are, which is huge, because when you know where you are, it allows your body to sort of micro position itself to have a better landing, which helps for the landing planing, obviously. So that head is doing a lot of work. Let me just say that again. When you're putting the head back in the forward, you're looking where you're going, and so that helps. So you know where you are, and so it helps your body adjust itself and adjust the gear without it being a conscious process, so that you can land soft and planing and everything else. You're just in the right position when you land. And 2 is it also is helping you pull in the sail better and everything else. So there's a lot of reasons why it really helps. All right. Let me catch up on the chat. Cool. All right. We've got this post from Max. Welcome to the group, Max. I think this is your first post. Welcome. If you're watching and you haven't done a post in the Facebook group, that's no problem, but feel comfortable to make one. And it can be whatever, it can be a question. If you have a photo or a video, that's great. But you're welcome to make a post. There's a lot of regulars that post every week, but everyone is welcome to post, and it makes a richer discussion. All right, so Max is from New Zealand. New Zealand gets good windsurfing. I've never been, but I would like to go. And he's interested in any tips to avoid getting backwinded in onshore conditions. I'm aware I didn't get a nice high five because my timing was off, which led to me turning too high up on the wave. I also didn't make an S shape with my front arm to initiate the turn. Any more suggestions would be appreciated. Looking forward to the live stream this week. Cool. All right, let's roll through the photos. Cool. All right, let's check out what the comments say. You guys sail in a lot more onshore conditions than I do throughout the year, though I've had to put in the time in onshore conditions, spending a lot of time in the Canary Islands and in Northern Europe, and a lot of other places. So I put in my time, but you guys are spending a lot of time in onshore conditions. So I want to see what you're saying. So Billy from the UK says, first of all, he wishes that there were some wind in the UK. I understand that. Often sail in onshore conditions. You can't tell how onshore it is. The more onshore it is, the more you have to rely on board speed to keep sheeted in as you initiate the bottom turn, and sooner you have to open up the sail before the top turn not to get backwinded. The deal with onshore down the line is to create a good board speed, which then helps the apparent wind more on the nose. In real onshore, you can end up trying to ride for a longer part of the S shape with the sail clew first, and you'll be going slower. The wave itself also makes a difference because a fast wave drives you towards the shore, again, helping with the apparent wind you feel in your sail. And the slope and size of the wave can also help in you maintaining the required board speed along the face. I hope this way of thinking helps, as it does for me, but I look forward to reading what others have to say. Cool. And this is interesting, and I like this analysis. Jeff says, I can't really tell if you got backwinded or whether you went out the back of the wave. Your point about hitting a steeper section is valid. You need the high five to rotate your board back towards the beach. You also need to throw the back of the sail away aggressively, moving the backhand forward, rotating the shoulders and hips. There's a fine line in onshore conditions about how close you can keep the back of the sail to you. As soon as you start to feel it go slack, you need to start opening the sail more in order to help keep some power in it. And here's some photos from Jeff in different conditions. Tomas says, I think you hit in the right place to the waist, but you went a little bit high on the wave face. So part of your bottom is above the wave, and there's not enough power, not enough board connection to help you get back in. So there's a lot of good comments here. All right, let me add my 2 cents. So first off, people are talking about placement on the wave, positioning. That's a great place to start. I love that. One of the things that I want to mention, and it's hard with this picture to get a full idea of what's going on, but there's not a lot of wave where Max is coming from. And you want to go from a power source to a power source. And so it's difficult. Like if I look at this wave all the way in the back, looks like there's a power source here and then another little power source setting up. And maybe this wave did something similar and it was a bit of a saddle shape where then this is a dead space. But what you don't want is to be just fully relying on the wind to then power you into a section because just the dynamics are wrong. You really want to start on a powerful place on the wave to start, and then go into another power source. Next, let's look at the positioning of the board on the wave. And so the angle is good. So I can see that Max, the board is not flat. He's angling the board towards the wave, trying to get that high five. He's a little bit high. So the high five is kind of missing the full board. So if he was aiming, just a little bit lower, just aiming here instead of up here, that whitewater would have transferred more power to the board. All right, now let's look at Um, now let's look at the technique. So one of the things that I've mentioned a lot, and it's okay to keep mentioning it, I think, because it's something that I also remind myself all the time. And that is that you really want to bend your knees a lot when it's onshore. Bending your knees really helps with everything in the onshore. It helps with your bottom turn. It helps with your cutback. It helps with keeping speed. Helps with the transfer of power on your cutback. Helps with not getting backwinded. It helps with so much. And so, Max, your legs are bent, but it's a little bit straighter than I'd like to see. So getting that low feeling by getting low in the knees, bending the knees will really help you here. And the next bit of technique is that you don't want to bring your hips up. So you can see here that your hips are high relative to the rest of your body. And you can really let your hips sink. And the feeling is that you're hanging more from the boom. So your upper body is not above the boom, it's hanging from it. And it looks like you had kind of a lot of power in your sail, and you're using the power of the sail to do this turn on this section, which is why you're in this position. And in that scenario, when you don't have the power of the wave helping you get in the right body position, you really just got to force it and really get low, hang from that boom, bend your knees, get your butt low. I wonder what I'd like to find. Let me see. I mean, I have video of myself, but I'm always showing video of myself. I want to show you guys video of someone else doing this because you've seen me do it. But I want to find an example, some other examples from other riders, just so you can see that it's not just something weird that I'm doing, but it's what. So I haven't, this is a random video. I just pulled this up, but these are fairly onshore conditions. And Jagger Stone is a great rider. So different kind of section, different kind of wave, everything. But just look how much bend he's got in his knees, and look where his butt is. And see, like, look where the butt is, and he's below the boom. And to be honest, I actually don't really like these really slidey turns that he's about to do. I prefer more of a rail turn. But a lot of the principles are the same. Like, look how low the butt is and hanging from the boom. Let's see if he does another kind of smack. Yeah, so this is a good example where he's hitting the lip. Look how much bend he has in his knees as he's coming to that lip, right? And look where his butt is. And look how he's hanging from the boom, right? And that allows all this power transfer to happen. This looks like a really good day in Cabezo. This is like as good as it gets. Doesn't get better than this. I wish I had a day like this when we were in Tenerife this summer. Okay, so you've seen it with me 100 times on the video with the low butt and the bent knees. Now we've seen it with Jagger. Let's try and find someone else. Just to like hammer this point home. Let's see if we can find something from Victor onshore. Okay, so here's an onshore wave ride from Victor. All right, so now you've seen it from me. You've seen it from Jagger Stone. Now let's see what Victor Fernandez is doing in these conditions. So he's a little bit straighter, but still, look at the position of the butt is super low with the butt compared to the wave. I like that turn. I like that turn more than the tail blow turns. So getting some bend in the knees, not as exaggerated as Jagger, but still not straight. And hanging, you can see, look, he's below the boom. And he rides a low boom. It's not like he's got a high boom. But, his body, his head, everything is below the boom, which if we compare that here, where you're above the boom the whole time, right? So you really want to be hanging from that boom, getting low. And you do that by bending your knees, sticking your butt down, butt back, letting that butt hang. And look what that does. It allows all of your body's power and energy to transfer to that heel side rail for that wrapping cutback. All right, this is just going to show the same wave again. Let's see if we have another onshore wave ride from Victor. And maybe somewhere that's not Tenerife, because we watched now a few different clips from Tenerife. So I think this is pretty onshore in his home spot. I don't know. It's maybe not super onshore. Maybe it's more side shore. But anyway, let's watch it and see. All right, so here's some wave riding. All right, look at the bend in the knees. Bend in the knees. So this is onshore and windy. Getting low in the knees, hanging from the boom, getting the butt down. Look. As he's hitting it, look at the bend in the knees. Look at the position. Look at the butt low, bent knees, butt low, hanging from the boom. And then that allows that great energy transfer. I wonder if there's more wave rides. I mean, I think you guys get the point. Like I said, I've shown you, I don't know how many clips of me doing it. Now I've shown one from Jagger, shown these ones from Victor. And here, this is a good example because his legs are quite straight in the bottom turn on this one, which I don't recommend. I think you want to have more bend in your knees. Sometimes it can work. It depends on the conditions, depends on your gear, depends on you. And these conditions are pretty onshore. But watch how low he gets as he comes to hit the lip, right? Then he's getting this bend. He's getting that hang, getting the butt low. And it turns into quite a nice off the lip. So I hope that helps with the technical aspect, Max. Does that make sense? Drop us a line in the chat if that makes sense. So about the body position. And then, so step one is, does it make sense? Step two, do you understand how to get in that position? Sort of that hanging position. So like what you're trying to do is you've got a lot of bend in your knees. So get your knees bent, hang from that boom, push your butt back towards the water. And what you're trying to do is push against the board so that the board is then pushing against the water. And so you can really use your legs as levers to get the board on the rail and push against it. And that works whether you're hitting the lip like this or hitting the whitewater, or also just turning on the face. And when you're turning on the face, it's even more important because you really want that rail to hold in the face of the wave so that you can carve your cutback rather than just sliding down the line. So those are some really key body positioning things. And again, now you've seen it. We've seen a lot of examples. So I hope that those help drill it in your head. So we got a question from Harold, who's asking, he's 97 kilos. What volume board would you recommend me sailing in Scheveningen? I can't say that properly. In the Netherlands, I would probably say you want to be around So I think there's a lot of current there. So I've never sailed there, but I've seen video of it, and it looks like there's a lot of current on the inside. So you do want to have some extra volume. And so I would say anywhere from 102 to 110 liters is where you want to be. And volume is not the only factor. Width is important. Tail width is important. You can have a wide board with a fast rocker that will allow you to get away with a lot less volume. If you have a board that's pretty wide and has a fast rocker, it will feel a lot bigger. Get you around a lot better. So like a 110 liter tippy board that's long and narrow with a lot of rocker will feel a lot smaller than a 102 liter board that's wider with a fast rocker. So the shape of the board matters as well. Maritz is saying to ask Jeroen Bulema for advice. I second that. Jeroen has a lot of experience there. He's a good windsurfer. He's got a shop. He's the one that sells Ezzy in the area. But I think what your range is, Harold, is between 102 and 110 liters is where you want to be. I think 100 liters, if you're that's where you want to be. Thomas is saying when bigger onshore waves do laydowns against the land. Well, I do in small waves too. Cool. All right. So moving on with the footage review. So Max, great post. I will write something on the post, and then this is an example of something that I'm going to put in the newsletter. So right, I said a lot about this and about these body positions, and so it's something that I can type up and put in more depth in the newsletter. I'll put a link. I've got to get it all set up. Like I said, I think I'm going to do it with Substack. I was looking at the pros and cons of all these different programs and softwares and stuff for doing newsletters. Put it in the Facebook group, and then of course next week Sunday I'll put it also in the live stream. But anyway, the point I was trying to make is that with the newsletter I can kind of type up basically what I'm saying here, but going with a little bit more detail. Sel posted this video of a full session, which is cool to watch, and he wants me to post a full session. That is definitely something that I can do and want to do. I've got a list. I don't have it in front of me right now, but I've got a list of videos that I want to do that you guys have recommended, that I've thought of myself. And it's just a matter of getting the time and just making them happen. John with another question about fins. I think this is answered. He was kind of asking Steve Thorpe some questions about fins. So Steve Thorpe is the man behind K4. And so I think that was quite answered in the group. This is from last week. We've got a new post from Paul with the forward loop. That looks nice. Yeah. Let's watch that in full screen. Can I make the quality better? So let's look at some of the key elements here. The front hand is back, right? The front hand is back, almost touching the harness lines. Backhand is also moved back. Normally you'd be sailing with your backhand around here. Goes off the ramp. Doesn't sheet in right away, which is important. Gets a little bit of height and allows the sail to breathe a little bit sheeted out, which helps with the positioning. Twists in. So I'm going to stop calling this sheeting in, because I think that can be counter to what we want to do. So it's more that he's twisting with his body to pull against the sail and twist the whole rig. Starts looking back where he's going to land. Paul, you could start looking a little bit sooner, but this is working for you, so I don't want to change too much. On land's really solid. But if you do want to land more planing, looking back sooner will help. But this is solid, and I can see here that you are really looking back. You're looking over the shoulder, which is important. You don't want to be looking under the shoulder, over the shoulder. So this is a great example of good forward loop technique, and you can see that it pays off with these solid landings. Yeah, the only thing I would add, which I mean, this is solid. You can look at that smile. You're stoked. Nice. Let's watch that again. I love it. The only thing I would add, but this is a tiny thing, is just to look back a little bit sooner. But I mean, these are solid. These are solid. You can see all the different points of the technique coming together. So great to see it. I love the smile. All right. All right. Next up, we've got a video from Nick, who's been working on going clue first switch stance. So he comes out of his jibe, goes clue first switch stance, and it's gotten comfortable sailing like that. And so the question is, okay, now what can I do next? I would recommend doing a switch stance clue first Spock, or just starting with a Vulcan at first, the switch stance clue first Vulcan. So you get in this position, and then all you do is you just do a little chop up here, just a tiny little chop up, just to release the fins. And then you just slide around. And so in the beginning, when you're doing the Vulcan part, you're sliding around 90 degrees or something. It's a tiny turn, but it feels very cool. And if you're not doing sliding tricks, this can be a good first sliding trick to get into, because it's pretty easy to get into. And then if you're trying to go all the way around and do a 540 rotation or 360 rotation, it's one of the next steps, going through the wind, and it teaches you a lot of things. Going through the wind, it helps with other sliding tricks that you want to do. It helps with takas. I wonder if someone posted a video of it. We got some other recommendations from other people in the community. I think this is what. So I think this is maybe Ben showing. Yeah, this should be it. So yeah, exactly. So this is a switch stance clue first Spock. And so all you do, and so to start, you're just going to be doing a Vulcan, right? You don't have to rotate all the way around, but you're doing switch stance clue first, and you just do this little chop hop, and then you can just slide, and then just slide back and sheet in and go the other way. And then you evolve to doing this move, which is the full shebang. But you start just doing the Vulcans. So here's another example of it. And again, you just do a little chop up and then sheet out and just feel it. Feel your gear. It's a great move. Just feeling what it feels like to slide, feeling what it feels like to release the fins. And so, yeah, Ben here is doing these switch stance clue first Spocks, the clue first puñeta. And those are great training for flockas, but you can just go into the Vulcan at first, just doing a 180 would be how I would start. Okay, so that's, I think. So Olivier's got a question. I use the sail with the front hand in supination. Do you have to switch to pronation when you front or back loop? So he's talking about underhand versus overhand grip, right? So underhand grip versus overhand grip. I would say that the forward loops are a lot easier to do a proper forward loop with an overhand grip. Back loops, you can do either way. I think back loops are one of the moves where it really doesn't make a difference. And in fact, when I was a teenager, I used to do my back loops underhand and push loops and forward loops overhand. So I'd back loop like this and push loop, forward loop, tabletop, whatever, like this. But I stopped doing that, and I forced myself to do the back loops overhand because it just gets too messy and too complicated and too many things to think about. If you're always switching your hand, you're like, oh, I need to switch my hand because I'm going to do a back loop or forward loop, back loop. And so I think it's good to have it consistent. But that said, it's up to you. I think that I think if you're doing back loops, doing them underhand is really not a problem. But if you want to do a lot of different jumps, I would probably recommend just getting comfortable jumping overhand. And you can sail out underhand and you just switch your hand before you get to the ramp. What gets more confusing is when you're switching for different jumps, because then you kind of lock yourself in maybe a little bit too early, and that can be a problem. All right, moving on. We've got this clip from Moritz that he posted, which this is not Moritz in the video, but he posted the video and says, every now and then I have a nosedive followed by a crash when top turning. It happens to me when the wave gets quite steep and hollow, usually the last turn before the wave breaks. I have the high five and do the top turn, but as the wave is steep, the nose dives when going down the wave with a big crash as a result. What am I doing wrong, or how can I avoid this? I don't have a video of myself, but I found this video of Michael Umek. It kind of illustrates what happens to me, although he's getting way more radical. All right, I love this video. Let's watch this video. This is such a good video. So why do I love this video? I love this video because it shows what happens when you don't commit. And so he's coming into this wave. He's got a good bottom turn, but then he gets scared of this lip here. And so you can see he's aiming for it, but then he stops aiming for it. And he, instead of committing and hitting the lip, he turns right below the lip, which nothing against Michael. This happens to all of us. So he turns below the lip, and then instead of getting the projection from the lip, he gets stuck inside of it. So if he'd hit the lip, it would have projected him and he would have been traveling with the lip. But because he didn't, he gets stuck in the lip. And then because he's in the lip, he comes down with the lip and goes boom into the sand. And so this is a great example of what happens when you don't fully commit and hit the lip. And this goes back to what we're talking about with limiting beliefs. I think he's maybe scared and thinks, okay, if I hit the lip, I'm going to hurt myself, or, oh, this is a scary lip. I can't hit the lip. But actually, it's much safer in this situation to hit the lip because it will project you out in front. Maybe you'll crash, but as long as you're hitting that lip with speed, it will project you out. And then even if you bail, you're out in front of the wave rather than coming down with the lip. So that's one answer to the question from Moritz, is sometimes actually hitting the lip will project you more into safety. But the other answer I want to give that doesn't include hitting the lip is that if you really stay on your rail and are really carving in the turn and really stay low and on the board, then you stay connected to the wave and you can manage to do a cutback quite late in the wave. So the other problem here is that he starts sliding. So instead of carving back in the wave, he's sliding in his cutback. And as I mentioned with the Jagger clip, I really don't like sliding in cutbacks because you're losing connection with the wave. So you just have the wind helping you. But so you can see here, if he were carving and was more connected with the wave, it's still a pretty radical section to do a carving cutback. So maybe it wouldn't have worked, but it would have had more chances of working. And then you could have carved in this curling pocket. But you can see that he starts straightening his legs. So instead of bending the knees and dropping the butt to keep that rail engaged, he's straightening the legs. You can tell he's kind of scared and hesitating. And then that causes this slide to happen. And so instead of carving back and carving in this C shape, which maybe wouldn't have worked, maybe this still would have broken on him, but it would have had a better chance of working. He starts sliding down and crashes. So really staying connected with the wave, really getting low on the heels, getting that butt low. So very similar, like we were talking about with Max, because a lot of these principles are the same, whether it's onshore or offshore, and because it's just about staying connected with the power of the wave and getting the board on the rail. I was talking with Fishbowl Diaries on the beach yesterday. So Paul from Fishbowl Diaries, if you guys follow their photos, they do amazing photos from Maui. Paul's a great sailor, and he was dealing with pitching the nose. And one of the reasons that that's happening is that he's not staying on the rail. And so he's doing the turn, but then dropping into the wave, just going again, like straight down. Whereas if you keep turning, then you're connected with the power of the wave and you're not going straight down. All right. So Mart says, what about Jeff's comment to never point with the nose to the beach, but rather go for 45 or 180 degrees turn? I think that is pretty solid advice. I think there are times where you do want to go straight to the beach, but it's not bad advice to think about either doing sort of like a half turn and keep going down the line, or do a full turn all the way cutting back. And so like what I'm talking about is doing more of this sort of 180 degree full turn, staying on that rail. Oftentimes, as long as you're connected to the power of the wave and your board is working, it's picking up speed, you're not going to get in such a bad situation because you're traveling with the wave. It's when you disconnect from the wave that then the wave breaks on you or smashes you. Yeah. So hopefully that makes sense. This is a great question. And Moritz, if you get some footage of yourself, I'd love to see it. And I want to hear also how this advice helps you and how it applies. So Ragnar says, what about just aiming for the high five? Yeah. So I think with this clip that we just watched, if he'd hit the lip and gone for just a big high five, he would have been fine. I mean, maybe he would have crashed. This is still a gnarly section. It looks really shallow in here. But he wouldn't have had such a gnarly wipeout, right? Because he would have hit the lip here and it would have been good timing. It's throwing. This would have been the high five moment and it would have thrown him out in front. And it's pretty likely then he would have landed in front of this explosion, either doing an aerial or some kind of off the lip maneuver. So, yeah. Cool, Maritz. Thank you for the question. This is a great question. And I think this is a really universal question. And I love seeing this video. So thank you for posting this video. I want to see if you can get footage, great. And if not, I want to hear how it goes the next time you have a session and what works for you. Alrighty. We already talked about this. We already talked about all of this stuff. Okay. I want to make one comment about the footwork on the tacking. So I posted this because we were talking about foot positions for tacks. And so this, I made this going from left to right, but actually it kind of works going from right to left as well. It's somewhat symmetrical, which is interesting. And I show, sort of wrapping this foot around the front of the mast and then bringing your feet heel to heel, sort of in this V position, and then coming around. And this is what I'm doing, as you can see in this picture. And I think it's good to think about it this way. So you can see here the position, the heel to heel moment. But there is also something else going on. And again, this is something that when I'm doing the newsletters, this is something that I can expand on, because often we talk about these concepts in the live stream and there's maybe some nuances that get left out. And the nuance that is left out in this discussion is that the foot is actually pivoting. And so I'm not planting the foot totally wrapped around the front of the mast to start with. This foot is more here. But you can start. So this is sort of like the step one, is to really wrap your foot around the mast in the beginning. But what's actually happening is that I'm putting my foot, somewhere here, if you can see where my mouse is lining up. But then as I'm standing up and bringing this back foot here, I'm pivoting my body and the foot is sliding on the board. And so I'm turning my body. And so it's like, I don't know if you guys can see me. Let me check the camera. So you guys can kind of see. So as I'm going into the tack, right, I'm sort of pivoting a bit with the foot that's on the on the deck of the board. And that might be harder to do if you're wearing boots. So if you're wearing booties, that might be hard or even impossible to do. I'm not really sure. But what's happening is the foot is pivoting a bit. And so that it ends up in this position, but it doesn't start in this position. As in the process of bringing this back foot towards the front foot, towards the mass track, I'm turning my body. And so you can sort of cheat if you're not comfortable to do that pivot by putting your foot in this position to begin with. And then there's a second pivot that happens with the other foot, which is how it goes from this position to this position. I'm not picking up and moving it, but as I'm moving this foot back to here, there's a rotation that's going on with my body that then is pivoting the foot. So then the foot just keeps the contact with the board, but just pivots from here to here. And you're using that rotational force of your body to power that pivot of the foot. Again, that might be really hard to do if you're wearing boots, in which case then you want to think about kind of cheating with it. So you start with your foot really wrapped around the mass track. I just wanted to throw this in because we talked about this last week, threw up these diagrams, but it is a pretty nuanced point. And so I thought that was important to bring up. Okay, we're all caught up with the group. So I think that's it. I think I'm going to say have a great week. It's windy today. So I'm going to get on the water today. Yesterday was good, solid. I've been having fun. I've been training more than anything else, trying to get ready for Cabo Verde. So like I said, I've been on my bigger boards, which are still fun, but I'm not able to do. It's funny because, on the smaller boards, I can do more radical things. But then it's, like I said in the beginning, it's super important for me to train on these bigger boards so that when I get to Cabo Verde, I'm comfortable and ready to improve. But anyway, I'm looking forward to sailing today. We've got one last question from Facebook. Facebook user, again, you've got to give StreamYard permission so that I can see who you are. Is it common that one side goes smooth and the other side not? I don't know exactly what you mean by that. I think you mean like when the wind is from the left or the right for wave riding or jumping. And that is very common that one side feels natural and the other not. And it's one of the amazing things about our sport that we are forced into this position. Other sports, you're not forced to learn how to, go the other way. Like in surfing, you're not forced to ride switch stance. For the tack. Yeah. It is normal that it's easier on one side or the other. And I just recommend that you really just practice. It's something to do when the conditions are not great. And, maybe there's some days where you're not, not that motivated to get on the water. The wind is light and there's no waves, but practicing your tacks, practicing your fast tacks both ways will really help your wave sailing. Having good tacks is one of the best ways to get better at wave sailing because 1, you're staying more upwind. 2, you can turn around with confidence, which means that you can catch the waves you want to catch. And also that you can get around on the inside. So having a fast tack both sides is a really good skill for wave riding, whatever the conditions you're in. So if the day is not looking very exciting, you've got 12 knots of wind and it's dead flat, go out and practice your tacks. It will make you a better wave sailor. And if you need some motivation for that, go into your core reason for windsurfing. This is just one last thing on the mental side, and then I've got to go. But I think it's really important to remember why you're doing this. To tap into your why, tap into your story. And it sounds like this kind of like bullshit, like motivational speaker stuff, like self-help books of, get into your why, get into your story. But it really does make a difference. And so like for me now, like I'm training for Cabo Verde because I want to win in Cabo Verde. So I'm going out on my bigger board that isn't as radical, and normally I would say is not as fun, but it is fun and it is fulfilling because I have a reason that I'm training for. And so the same for you with the tacks when in poor conditions, and you just have this vision of, okay, I'm gonna dominate my wave sessions, and the way I'm gonna do that is by having good tacks, because you can't dominate in your wave riding if you don't have good tacks. And so putting in that work on those days when you otherwise wouldn't be motivated is really easy when you have that clear of what you want to do, what your motivation is, saying, okay, I'm a wave rider and I'm gonna be a good wave rider. I'm gonna be a dominant wave rider, and so I have to work on my tacks. Um, and that's just to bring this full circle again. That's sort of the opposite of a limiting belief. It's a belief that helps you grow and gets you on the water when the conditions are not great, and then it makes your sessions when the conditions are good more fun. So of everything I've said in the coaching, I think that is a point that can probably help you the most. Like everything we talk about is important and is helpful, but getting these big beliefs changed and motivations changed and these stories changed will make a bigger difference than anything else we're talking about. If you spend an extra 20 days a year sailing in 12 knots in flat water, just working on your tacks, that will probably make you a better sailor than some minutia of dropping your hips. Though you should drop your butt in the bottom turns. Drop your butt, hang from the boom, get low, bend your knees. All right, I'm signing off. See you guys all next week. I'll post the details about the newsletter in the group. You guys know the drill. Post your photos, videos, questions, all of the above in the Facebook group. I'll see you next week, Sunday. I'm signing off. Let me know in the Facebook group about beliefs that have helped you, different training you've done that have helped you, like we're talking about with the tacks. I want to hear success stories and what you're working on. Let me know about the limiting beliefs that help you. All right, take care. I'm signing off. Have a good week. I hope it's windy.